So I'm going to do this video on this Allis Chalmers 444 Baler. It's a 1969 model. There's not hardly any videos out there on these old balers. But if you got one that's been kept inside and maintained, they're actually pretty good balers. The only bad part of it is a lot of the parts you can't order anymore. I've learned that a good bit of the knotter parts is the same as a lot of the older New Hollands. I've ordered and replaced these knife arms in here. I just ordered them for like a New Holland 273. There's a lot of things that are the same, although the one thing I have not found that is the same on any New Hollands, I haven't looked at them all, but this knotter brake right here, all the New Hollands I've seen have a disc, whereas this has a drum and a shoe set up. So that's one thing that I haven't found that's the same. But I bought this old baler about 3 years ago for $500. It had been kept inside, older gentleman getting out of farming. Hadn't done square bales in several years. And there was a sapling growed up in front of the old shed that it was sitting in. It was like 5 inches in diameter, so that's how long it had been sitting. But they said it baled whenever they parked it. And we put like 700 and some bales in it through it the first year, 800 and some last year. And I'd always had problems with like banana bales. The bale tension was uneven. It was always this side. They was always shorter and the strings were looser, and I'd crank this lever down to where it was majorly uneven compared to this side, and it was still doing it. So I knew there had to be a problem there, and that's what I've been addressing here the last couple days. I was reading in the manual, I do have a manual for it, that these feeder rakes down here that drag the hay from the pickup over into the bale chamber, that they can get out of adjustment from the chain getting wore, or maybe at jump time. And I know a couple years ago I actually broke a shear bolt on one of those, and it doesn't feed the hay evenly in the way it should, can cause uneven bales. And so that's what I began to do yesterday, was try to adjust them. And I thought I would do a video in case somebody's got one of these old balers that doesn't have a manual, so you could see how to do it. And so to start the process of putting your baler in time, you're gonna have to have your access door here opened up to where you can see down there in your plunger. And you see that piece of plate right there in front of my finger. That is the floor, the beginning edge of the floor of your bale chamber. You come back here to your flywheel and you turn it, and your plunger has to be on its compression stroke. So it's on its way down now. So it's on its compression stroke. I'll keep turning the flywheel, and you turn it until the edge of your plunger right there is at the edge of your floor on your bale chamber. I'll move it just a little bit so you can see one. See that edge right there? That's how you start your timing. It has to be on a compression stroke, but you line that edge of your plunger up with your the floor on your bale chamber. I had to start the video over because I accidentally hit a button. You can see that rib in your bale floor there. You want to, at this position of your plunger, you want to, once you trip your needles, you can manually push them with your hand, because you've got that chain off, to where the tip of the needle is just flush with that lip that's sticking up right there. They should be coming in behind, just behind your plunger. And once you have them set there, I might just try to trip it and show you. Okay, so I tripped it. I'm gonna have to turn it completely over because Okay, I think about right there. No, not far enough yet. Yes, that's good right there. Okay, so your needle needs to be pretty much flush with the top of that little ridge right there. It could actually stand to go a little bit further. There. Now that's where it should be set. You can manually, with that chain off, you can manually move your needles, and that's where they need to be. They need to be flush with that channel, the lip that's sticking up, and they should be entering the bail chamber just behind those teeth on your plunger. Once you have that done, then this wheel right here will turn counterclockwise until it catches on this right here, and it's tripped right now, so you can't see it. Let me finish cycling it. Okay, you'll turn it till it catches, and then you want to put your chain back on, and you want to start with your top. And you want to keep that top tight as you're putting it on. If you can't, once you have this turn counterclockwise, and you go to put your chain on, if you can't get it on in that spot, if you need it moved just a little bit, come back to your flywheel, turn it counterclockwise, just like a ½ inch at a time. It might take you a couple times until you can get this chain on that gear and keep the top tight. Then, once you have that, then put your idler back on, bring it up to tension, and you should be set to go. Now that's the way I did it. And then I started having problems. And I went back through that book 3 times to put those things in time, and I kept on shear bolts up there on the flywheel. And I got to noticing that sometimes whenever I would trip this thing, these needles would fall forward like 3 or 4 inches. And that's whenever it would shear. And what it was doing was this ram block right here. It's a safety mechanism to where if those needles prematurely enter the bail chamber before they're supposed to, this block right here comes down, sticks in there, and your plunger hits that. That's what shears your shear bolt. And I could not figure out what was going on. And then I got to doing some more reading, more research. Those needles was kind of falling forward just a little bit too soon, and which was making that ram block go into place, and that was what was shearing my bolt. Well, then I figured out this knotter brake right here. Never really knew what its purpose was. I mean, I've only been doing my own hay for 3 years, and I didn't really know what it was. I didn't have any problems with it, so I didn't mess with it. And my wife even told me last night, because we noticed this arm right here. It was flopping a little bit back and forth, which was making those needles go down too soon. She said, why don't you tighten this up a little bit? And I said, I don't know what that does. I'm not messing with it because I don't know what it does. And so we finished up last night, 10 o'clock, aggravated, hungry, tired. Had to cover everything up because it's supposed to rain. And I figured out that knotter brake right there, that is a brake to hold the needles in place after it's tripped to prevent them from entering the bail chamber prematurely. And it keeps tension on this right here. And all I did, I turned this wing nut 5 times. And I can move it if I have to. I'm not, but I have to put some force on it. And I actually went back through the needle timing procedure this morning, and yesterday whenever I would trip that thing, I'd have to have my wife hold these needles in place because they just wanted to fall forward. Well, if this up here is set tight enough, you don't want it too tight, but if it's set tight enough, those needles, you actually have to just put a little pressure on them to push them to get them to move. But I mean, it's excessive. It's just a little bit of force. So I tightened this wing nut up 5 times and started turning it over by hand. And I'd trip that lever and those needles would stay in place until this came around and caught when it was supposed to, and then would bring the needles forward. And I did it by hand several times. Fired the tractor up, left it at an idle, tripped it several times. It worked perfect. I brought it up to about 1200 RPMs. Just a little bit by a little bit. Seemed great. And then I brought it up to about 1600 RPMs, which I usually run the baler at 1800. It's just a hair under 540 RPMs on the PTO, but it's an old baler. It bales good at 1800 RPMs, and that's where I do it. And I brought it up to full operating speed, or close to it, and did it several times, and it did great. So that is how you put your needles in time. That's how you get your feeder rakes adjusted. That's also how you need to make sure that your knotter brake is adjusted. So I'll fire it up here real quick, just so you can see how everything operates. I'm gonna set the camera down here. Try to, it'll probably fall over whenever I start the tractor. That's on an idle. You can see those feeder rakes there. They would be bringing the hay from the pickup over to the bale chamber. I also want to point out one other thing. They said that if it was adjusted right, those feeder rakes would cross each other. I think right there, they actually cross each other. And it says if they're adjusted correctly, that's the way they should do. You can't really see it. Maybe if the camera. There we go. Okay. So, back around here. I also noticed one thing before. This arm right here sometimes would not be that straight. It would be tilted back a little bit further, and since I got that all adjusted, it seems like it stays straight for the most part after it's tied, or after the knotters have worked. I'm going to trip it here. There we go, needles come up, no shebangs. I'm going to trip it one more time. You'll see how this ram block right here goes in. See how it went in? And it will go in after the rams went already passed, but it's got a tapered back on it to where the ram can shove it out of the way whenever the ram's coming back. Alright, I'm gonna bump up the RPM a little bit. About 1700 RPMs right there. Like I said, I usually run the baler at 1800. You can see everything's going pretty good there. First time I did this, I was scared to death. Oh man, it's been all quite a bit. I hope this video helps somebody. I know I had to watch, I told my wife I felt like I watched every YouTube video there was about putting balers in time and adjusting needles, and there ain't nothing out there on an Allis Chalmers baler. Just because they haven't made them for years, they don't make any parts for them anymore. Like I said, if you can find one that's in good shape, that's been well taken care of, they're a good old baler. I've learned a lot about them. Between last year, I put the new knotter arms and was trying to adjust stuff to get knots to tie better, and this year with this episode. So, I'm anxious to get it in the hayfield now. We done 162 bales the other night. Bad thing was I had to rebale almost 20 of them because I kept on having these banana bales. One side was loose, bale tension was not correct, and so I hope adjusting those feeder rakes is going to take care of that issue. And another thing I know with these old balers, and I think the New Hollands are the same way, you've got to have good, big windrows. If you've got these little windrows, you need to rake them over into each other and get them bigger, because these old balers, they like a full windrow. You'll get a lot better bales that way. So, like I said, I hope this video helps somebody. If you got any questions, put them in the comments, and I'll try to help you out as much as you can, as much as I can. I do know there's manuals out there available. I've seen them on eBay for these old balers, and so that would be a big help if you could get you a manual. So, hope it helps somebody.